We've got about 39 days till lock for best ball. We are breaking down each team as training camp is going on right now. We're gonna start doing each team, talking ADP, talking depth charts, who we're high on, who we're low on, injuries, narratives, all that kind of stuff. Ellie, talk to the folks about what we're doing here.
Welcome to episode 2. We're breaking down each team, just real quick, a high level of season outlook, and we're tracking it by week 17 stacks. So this week we got New York Giants and Los Angeles Rams. And whether or not you're a proponent of week 17 stacking, it is a lot easier to track which teams we covered this way. So thank you. Let's get into it.
Yeah, for sure, man. And by the way, it looks like I'm on dial up or some sort of really shitty internet, but I promise it's going to go smooth. All right, let's get into this. What is up, guys? Welcome to the Edge DFS. My name is Tyson Smith, joined by Ellie Hernandez. Ellie, we just got some news before we started recording the show. Jonathan Taylor Thomas, aka Jonathan Taylor from the Indianapolis Colts, he wants the F out of D. What's going to happen here, man? I know we're not talking about the Colts yet, but this could, as one of our guys in our Discord, brought up, a lot of the different dominoes could fall into place, with this trade. Like, we could start to see some high level running back free agents start to move and get signed. What do you think's going to happen here?
I don't think anything's going to happen. I think Jonathan Taylor will hold out as long as he can, and he's going to end up having to play. At the end of the day, nobody's going to trade real assets for Jonathan Taylor to pay him more than the franchise tag. So, I don't know, man. I really just don't think that anybody's going to give him what he wants. And it sucks for Jonathan Taylor. I'm a proponent that everybody should be paid, right? They make a shitload of money. Like the billionaire owners can foot a little bit more money to pay the running backs. But, that's beside the point. It's just part of the CBA. You're going to have to figure something out. I don't think anything's going to happen. Although we still could see something like Kareem Hunt end up signing with the Colts. That's just the name I'm throwing out there.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's get into the Giants and Rams. So let's talk about briefly just injuries here. Now, there's not a whole lot to talk about on the Rams when it comes to that side of things. We'll get into the narratives here in a second, but we got to mainly talk about Giants and more specifically Giants wide receivers. It's kind of been a shit show when it comes to this, like trying to figure out who to draft, right? I think things as camp is getting going, I think we're at the end of the first week or so. We're starting to see who we think is probably going to be the guys here, like the top 6 guys, and who we're safe to draft and who we shouldn't touch. But as of now, Wan'Dale Robinson, who was drafted last year, pretty solid dude. I think he was drafted by the current regime, like you were telling me before the show. Sterling Shepard, not so much. He had a torn ACL last year. He was placed on the PUP list. He's been on the Giants since 2016. He's 30 years old. I mean, I think he's getting cut. There's a ton of receivers on this team. I think he's gone. Who knows what his future looks like? But Wan'Dale Robinson, I think, is a safe bet. I don't know what his time frame is. I mean, he's recovering from a torn ACL. He's a rookie last year, so he's young. He only played 6 games last year, but he looked pretty good. So I think he's probably safe if you get him in the 19th or 20th round. Probably fine as a flyer. He could come in and he could actually make an impact. And especially considering they drafted him last year, they probably want to see what he's got, right? So have you noticed anything else injury-wise? I mean, I don't think I'm missing anything on the other side of the ball on the Rams, right? Have you heard anything?
Not on the Rams, but I do just a reminder, the PUP is different for training camp preseason. I think up until like August 22nd, it really doesn't mean what we think it means. After that PUP update, then we can start really making decisions on whether or not these guys are going to play. Now, to your point, I don't think Shepard is going to stay with the team. He's just old regime. Wan'Dale is kind of the guy that I'm really looking at here, right? I want to see kind of where he shakes out after all this bullshit goes through.
Yeah, and we're going to get to in depth the wide receivers and where they're at and everything like that here in a second. Let's go into our narrative section here. So what jumps out to you narrative wise? I mean, we got to talk about Sony Michel, which interestingly enough, he just retired. Like you sent me a text like right before we were about to come on. He just announced his retirement. So that kind of, I think that kind of depressed Zach Evans, his ADP. Maybe it rises a little bit. I don't think it's a huge deal. But he is retired, so that's one less running back we have to guess on. And if we all know Sony Michel. This is a dude that can absolutely vulture a lot of touchdowns. So, hey, rest in peace, Sony Michel. You had a good career. I'm glad you're gone, fantasy wise.
Yeah, for sure.
What else jumps out to you, man? Like, I know we have the wide receiver 3 battle for the Rams. That's something that's interesting. I don't think that it makes a huge deal, though. I mean, it kind of. In the 20th round, you could find one of these guys.
So I think the two like high level narratives that I'm interested in, and I think people might disagree with me on this, but I already don't like running backs really in the first 80 picks, right? So like Cam Akers being up there, like I'm still not sold on him. I know that he had some pretty solid output. He was getting a lot of work, but like you and I think disagree on this. But I just Sean McVay wanted to trade him. Like he wasn't going to be a part of that future. So like he was forced into playing him, and he ended up playing him, and it ended up kind of working out. But I also don't know that McVay is really sold on him. And with the free agent running back pool that is available, right? Like the Rams are a perfect team to sign some bullshit free agent that they shouldn't get, right? Like I know we're going to keep saying Kareem Hunt until he signs with the team, but like that's an actual guy that would be scary as hell in that offense. So I'm not 100% sold on Akers. I think that that's easily a team that could add another running back before the season starts. And then the Giants, I think the biggest narrative, and this will really play into the receivers when we get to it, is just they got a new GM, 2022. They have Brian Daboll coming in. They have a new head coach, right? There's a lot of transition here, and right, if Saquon isn't somebody that necessarily is guaranteed a roster spot, right? I can't imagine guys like Darius Slayton and Sterling Shepard will continue to be. So I think that stuff is going to matter when we get into the wide receivers and some of these depth positions, like who's been with the squad, who's new, and who's a part of the new regime. Those are really the two narratives that I'm tracking, if at all.
Yeah, I hear you, man. Let's just get right into this breakdown. Let's just do it. Break it down. All right, so obviously Saquon last week, for the first time ever, we were able to get Cooper Kupp Saquon stacks. Saquon was kind of going 23, 20, 22, maybe in that range. Maybe he drops a little bit. People were a little bit scared of him when he was not reporting to camp. That got solved pretty quick, and I think that a lot of these running backs are going to have to just go down this route. Come out, play your best. It sucks. You figure this out down the road. You're going to have to play. You're going to lose. You're already not making a ton of money. Now you're going to lose millions by just hanging out at home. It's probably not smart. So now that we've gotten Saquon back down to that 16 ADP range, we're probably not getting Cooper Kupp Saquon Barkley stacks, although I've had Cooper Kupp drop down to 7 and 8, 8th pick sometimes. So if you get something weird that happens like that, you could. Are you opposed to this Cooper Kupp Barkley thing if it falls in your lap? It's probably not gonna, but that's a pretty high level stack. And look, you don't even have to do you don't have to match their quarterbacks. You don't have to bring the quarterbacks in. You don't have to do a 3v3 with the run back. You could just have these guys naked together, right? That sounded weird.
Yeah, I mean, no, you should have both Cooper Kupp and Saquon naked together. Anyways, look, this is why I'm kind of a proponent for week 17. Like last year, you kind of had an argument like this. The ADP didn't line up. It didn't make sense. But like week 17, you have Cooper Kupp versus Saquon Barkley. If both those dudes are healthy, like that's exactly what the fuck I want, right? Like I can build a lineup around both Cooper Kupp and Saquon Barkley individually. And then week 17, I have a mega correlation from 2 top 20 overall picks, right? That's sweet. That's awesome. So I love it. I think you should try to get to it as much as possible. I don't think it's going to happen necessarily as much as it was like a week ago.
Yeah.
But as I say that, right, like Calvin Ridley is shooting up in ADP just because of some
one catch,
awesome training camp video, right?
Yeah.
He's running routes one-on-one. You should be beating your man one-on-one, right? Like that's what the fuck you do as a wide receiver in training camp. So like we're seeing some insane movement on some of these players. So keep an eye on it. Cooper Cup and Saquon, it's going to be kind of a unique stack just because of where it is in ADP, and I don't think it's bad. Like, I love it. I really want one. I don't have it yet.
So most
I've got
likely,
like 4 Cooper Cup though.
so most likely you're not going to get to this. So if you get Cooper Cup, if you get the fourth pick, fifth pick, if you love him, maybe the third pick in that range, most likely 4. If you get him, what switches in your mind here? Like for me, I immediately go to Darren Waller at 73. I'm immediately trying to go Cooper and Darren Waller, which, by the way, another narrative. Darren Waller absolutely dominating in camp, like absolutely dominating. So he's a guy that I loved earlier. There's always an injury concern, but as of right now, I mean, he's dominating, and I think he can do, like, if he's healthy, he's one of the top tight ends in the league. I think we established that. The problem is, can he stay healthy? So for me, Cooper Cup, I'm going to miss out on Barkley. I don't know if I love Cam Akers. Like, I don't mind it. I've gotten a few Cooper Cup, Cam Akers stacks, with the quarterback there, with Matt Stafford, but I'm not looking for it if it falls on my lap, because basically if you're drafting 4, you've got pick 52 and then you got 69. So he's got to fall like 10 spots. And if he does, then I'll probably take him at 10 spots past ADP. But you're going with Cooper Cup, you're going with Waller, and then after that, at pick 107, which you got to make a decision. You're gonna have to reach, most likely, because you're getting pick 100. If you're getting pick 4, you're getting pick 100. You're probably gonna have to reach about 7 spots. Who cares? Like that's fine to complete this stack. Now you're good for a minute. Like if you get Daniel Jones, and if you miss out on Daniel Jones, well, thankfully you got Matt Stafford later. You could now target Higbee a little bit harder, since you're going after Stafford, and he's right around pick 150. So you got pick 141 if you really wanted to reach, or you got pick 148 if you're confident. Usually around this time, where the quarterbacks are going is very random. You could get some dude who absolutely reaches like 20 picks and gets Matt Stafford. Who knows? But if you got Cooper Cup, probably nobody's reaching for him. So if you want to wait till the 13th round at pick 148, you probably are going to be fine to get him. But I probably am. I love the Cooper Cup as like a naked run back. Like I like getting the Daniel Jones. First of all, he's at pick 107, and Daniel Jones, we know he can rush the ball. Like, what did he have, like almost 700 yards last year or something like that rushing? He's like a solid rushing attack, and we just don't give him credit for that. So right. I'm very interested in Daniel Jones there. I usually, when I get Cooper Cup, I try to get Darren Waller and Daniel Jones, and then I start to play this game where, we're getting Paris Campbell, we're getting Hyatt. There's a ton of dudes that we can talk about. Talk about your mindset, and then I want to get into specific positions and wide receivers here. What's your mindset, though, after this position? If you don't get Darren Waller, where are you going?
Okay, so the first thing is Cooper Cup, you don't have to stack. Saquon Barkley, you don't have to stack. So this is the Rams Giants is an interesting one because like there's so many question marks everywhere else that like reaching for guys like Cam Akers specifically, and then even going too high with Daniel Jones or Tyler Higbee, you can kind of damage what you're building, right? So if you like Cup and you don't want to stack anything else, that's fine. But again, it is so easy to get Waller. That's kind of what I've been targeting. I think in almost every Cup lineup I have Darren Waller. And that just comes down to kind of some of the stuff that you're talking about, and not even the narratives at camp. Like, he is the best wide receiver on the Giants right now. Like, I don't care that they have Isaiah Hodgins, Paris Campbell, any of these other guys, right? He is the best pass catcher on that team.
Yeah.
By far. So I want Darren Waller just because he's one of the best players on that offense, and the tight end is a tough position to fill. So if that's my 1-1 and my only exposure to this game, I think that's definitely fine. Now, here's some names around Cam Akers that you have to just take into account, right? Drafting Cam Akers means the opportunity cost that you're losing out. You have Drake London, Alex Madison, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Deontay Johnson, Chris Godwin, Tyler Lockett, Hollywood Brown, right? Those are all guys that you're missing out on because you're taking Cam Akers. And like Hollywood Brown is wide receiver 1, and that's 4 or 5 picks past Cam Akers.
Yeah.
Wide receiver 1 on a team that's still going to throw for 3,000 yards. So like these are things that we have to take into account when you're considering a guy like Cam Akers. So primarily what I do here is Cooper Kupp, Darren Waller. If I can get to Daniel Jones without reaching too hard, I like Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
Because of that rushing upside that you mentioned. You add 4 or 5 rushing touchdowns onto a quarterback, all of a sudden you're going from you're going from just like a second or third place finish to a league winner.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So like that matters. And then again, like if you want to backdoor some stacks with Daniel Jones just to get a little bit more comfortable, the back end wide receivers are free. They're just free.
They're free. Exactly. So. Especially, look, a guy like Jalen Hyatt, we didn't mention him in the narratives, but he has been lighting it up at practice apparently in training camp. People have been noticing. People have been talking about him. So if you look at that ADP, it's not great. He started out at 160 and has dropped all the way to 198. Little interesting why that's happening, and then you look at Paris Campbell and it's the opposite. Right. Paris Campbell is going up, and I get it. But now that we've seen Jalen Hyatt and we've seen that he's a capable guy who can go out and run fast and catch the ball deep, I think his ADP is going to go up a little bit. That's an overreaction, right? Like tell me what you think about that. There's no reason Paris Campbell should be 45. No. It should move up 45 and Jalen Hyatt move down 40, right? Like maybe 20 and balance out a little bit. But yeah, it doesn't make sense.
I don't see any reason. Paris Campbell could just is just a shit show. Jalen Hyatt was a rookie that they drafted this year in the 3rd round. 3rd round picks are they're important. So yeah. I really like Jalen Hyatt. I think that as he falls, man, like it just doesn't make sense. Get some Paris Campbell, but god damn it, that ADP.
All right, so let's look at all the wide receivers. All right, so obviously we've signed the Giants have signed Cole Beasley a couple days ago, which to me, we'll get into the slot wide receiver, all those guys that are available or all those guys that are on the team in a minute. But Beasley, Hyatt, Slayton, Hodgins, Wan'Dale Robinson, Sterling Shepard, Paris Campbell. Then you got guys like Jamison Crowder, Jeff Smith, David Sills, some guys that you might recognize the name. Like a guy like David Sills, he could make the team. I don't know. But to me, it feels like Jamison Crowder, Sterling Shepard are the odd men out. And Darius Slayton, fine. He had like 700 yards last year. He did pretty good last year. Darius Slayton did 71 targets, 46 receptions, 714 yards, 3 touchdowns. Not bad. He had a nice practice on Friday. Got a big touchdown. Looked fast, so maybe he's another guy to talk about. But what do we do here? I mean, they're going to keep 6 probably. So who are those 6? Beasley, Hyatt, Slayton, Hodgins, definitely Robinson, and then Paris Campbell, right? I mean, Sterling Shepard's probably just gone, right? What do you think?
Yeah, I think Sterling Shepard's probably gone. Look, man, I'm not a salary cap expert, but Colin Johnson has $1 million cap hit, right? Wan'Dale Robinson, $2 million. Jeff Smith, $1.2 million. Like those are the guys that I'd be looking. Those are guys that pretty much guaranteed contracts. You cut Cole Beasley, Khalil fucking Pimpleton. Like I don't think that's going to impact your cap sheet. And that's something to keep in mind. Again, like you might want to find somebody smarter than I am when it comes to the cap, but follow the money. If they're paying these guys, I think it's worth keeping a mind on. I mean, that's why we're drafting Paris Campbell, right? It's because he was a free agent brought in. Same with Isaiah Hodgins. Like those are guys that are being paid to come in and play. So like that's what we like about him. And then now that we're on Hodgins, fuck it, right? Like he came in with the new offense, with the new head coach, with the new GM. So like if there's guys that are going to be prioritized over even Darius Slayton, who's getting a decent amount of money, you're going to Sterling Shepard, like even Cole Beasley, you're going to try and run Isaiah Hodgins because you paid him and you brought him in. So that's where I'm at.
And he's cheap. Like, okay, so he started the season with Buffalo. He ended up getting signed off the street by the Giants, played 8 games, scored 4 touchdowns. He looked like probably a number 1 wide receiver on this team at times. I think he's probably the safest bet at wide receiver. I mean, maybe you could argue Paris Campbell, but Isaiah Hodgins feels like the guy they're going to line up on the outside. They're gonna utilize him.
And just real quick on Hodgins, it doesn't look like he really has much of a cap hit this year. So again, I think we should defer to someone a little bit smarter than me, but I don't want to mislead anybody and just think that he's getting, $4 million when he's on a vet minimum contract or something. So.
Yeah. And look, the Giants have him under contract for 2 more years. Like, he's on the team. So they're going to utilize him. They're going to use him up. He had no drops last year, 78% catch rate. He looked good in the times that he can play. Let's see. So Paris Campbell, he's kind of this guy that's interesting. As you can see here, Paris Campbell and Darren Waller caught the most passes in the 5 drills, whatever. It's practice. But kind of seeing how they're using him is the important part. And it seems like he's kind of this gadget guy. They're running around in motion. Earlier on in OTAs, there was rumors that they were using him in the backfield, kind of like how they're using Laviska Shenault and some of these other wild card type dudes. So the fact is, Paris Campbell could be a guy getting handoffs every once in a while, getting some gadget plays, getting some easy catches on screen plays, which is nice. He was signed as a 1-year deal as a free agent, so they brought him in on purpose. They wanted him. So I think Paris Campbell's great, and he's going the highest out of most of these wide receivers, which is kind of interesting. So here's the slot wide receiver situation. Guys who have history of playing in the slot: Shepard, Wan'Dale Robinson, Paris Campbell, Jamison Crowder, and Beasley. Now, they brought Beasley in for a reason. Now, obviously, to me, what that means is Shepard probably gone. Wan'Dale Robinson, when is he going to come back? Right now, you're starting guys, probably Paris Campbell. Jamison Crowder, we forgot to mention it earlier on the injury part, but Jamison Crowder is on the non-football injury list. So I don't even know if what his injury is, or I couldn't really find a ton of information on that, but he's not at training camp right now. He's probably going to get cut. He's just old. He could just be old. So now you're looking at Paris Campbell and Cole Beasley in the slot with Wan'Dale Robinson recovering. That's kind of an interesting thing. That's why, I mean, they brought Beasley in for a reason. And they're probably not going to cut this dude unless he's just dust. You know what I mean? What jumps out to you here real quick, and then we'll move on to more Jalin Hyatt.
I think just going back to what we were talking about in the beginning of the show, it really matters what's going on with Wan'Dale. He's going to be that guy, I really think. If Wan'Dale and Paris are healthy, maybe they hold on to Jamison Crowder just because he can be decent depth. But then I think they cut Cole and Sterling.
Yeah, could be, man. So we'll see what's going on with Wan'Dale. Keep that in mind. Don't go crazy drafting Cole Beasley yet. Maybe he's just another body in camp. Maybe they just want to test him out and see what he's up to. All right, so Jalin Hyatt he's finally getting first team reps. He's a rookie 3rd-round pick. He had a huge year in college last year. He scored 15 touchdowns. I mean, this guy's no scrub. And they drafted him in the 3rd round. Obviously, they want to use him. Finally picking up reps. He had his best practice was on Friday. He had 4 catches. He looked incredibly fast. I think Hyatt to me is I already have a decent amount of him, and I was really scared when I saw his ADP dropping. I'm like, shit, what did I do? I'm screwed. I will continue to draft him. Hopefully his ADP doesn't rise too much, because I think he's a good value in that 18th, 19th round area. Here's a funny one. Darren Waller lining up for team photo with Cole Beasley, Sterling Shepard, Jamison Crowder, and Wan'Dale Robinson. That's pretty much what it looks like, man. All right, so let's talk about the running backs real quick. So when Saquon was, there was rumors of him holding out, everyone's freaking out. Well, who the hell, who are we getting as the backup? Who's going to be getting these snaps? To me, it was like Matt Breida. But they did draft the rookie Eric Gray. He's a rookie from Oklahoma. As of right now, it looks like Breida is in the lead for that, but I think taking Eric Gray in the last round every once in a while instead of Breida, maybe switch it up a little bit, is probably a safe bet. because we do have James Robinson here, who was just signed. He was signed by New England, then cut. Now he's brought in with the Giants. I'm not super worried about it, but what does that do, man? Like, I don't want to spend too much time talking about backups with Saquon because they're just not going to get a lot of work, but we got to talk about it a little bit, because if you want a little bit of action here at the end and you're looking for another running back to pair with your Giants stacks, Matt Breida, I don't hate him.
Yeah, I think you're fine. I think Matt Breida is a really interesting choice. I think he can get involved in the pass game a little bit more than at least James Robinson. I don't know shit about Eric Gray. We'll learn a little bit more over training camp. But again, Saquon got his contract. For whatever reason, he was happy with it. So I think that he's going to get the hell worked out of him this season. Really, I was interested in Breida and some of these other guys just in case Saquon missed a couple of weeks and holding out. But at this point, I think that their upside's kind of limited. I think you're just better off. You can do the same thing on the other side, right? With the Rams, who's their backup running back after Cam Akers? Cam Akers could actually just get hurt, and all of a sudden
Zach
he's
Evans.
RB1, right?
Yeah,
Zach Evans. So, it's the round 20. Both guys are free. I just think you have a little bit more upside with Zach Evans.
So another guy to talk about here real quick is Daniel Bellinger. So what really made, like, last year he had a decent year. Like, he was the guy and he looked fine. Coming into this year, you'd expect him to really not get much any work at all with a guy like Waller coming in. I still think you could take shots on Bellinger in the last round if you're short on tight end. I mean, shit, if you really wanted to go this route, if you wanted to get 4 tight ends and you had the room, maybe if you're only getting 2 quarterbacks, maybe you get Darren Waller and Daniel Bellinger. You get Daniel Bellinger at the end. If Waller's out, that volume could shift a little bit to him. I don't know. What do you think about that? What are your thoughts on drafting backups? Like, I mean, especially in like the last round, it doesn't really matter, right?
Yeah, man, I think you're fine. If you want to get really risky and take a random dude like Daniel Bellinger, I still think that there's tight ends specifically. There's just a lot of other guys that are in better spots, right? Isaiah Likely is still going in the 20th round. Trey McBride is still going in the 20th round. Zach Ertz probably going to be cut before the season starts, right?
So you think so?
Like, yes, I don't mind taking stabs on some of these guys, but you're hoping for an injury when there's already guys just in clear positions that are much better, that haven't moved, and their ADP just hasn't adjusted for it yet. So capitalize on those until they move up into the 17th, the 16th round. Then you can go back to your Daniel Bellinger plays.
One thing I noticed,
that's my stance.
One thing I noticed with the Giants stacks is people are all over the place. Like, people rely on these guys in the later rounds, these wide receivers, and they get scooped up sometimes. Sometimes they get scooped up. Sometimes Jalen Hyatt falls down to the last round. Sometimes Paris Campbell gets taken 20 above ADP, but Isaiah Hodgins like falls 20 picks. Like, it's so strange. So the hard part to me is when you get robbed from some of these guys, because sometimes you will, and you got a Daniel Jones and a Waller. Well, like, some of these dudes that we're talking about here, like getting them in the last round is helpful, just to kind of get, or maybe you have Daniel Jones naked. Getting a Daniel Bellinger, that's the only time I would probably ever draft him or Breida, is probably if I'm trying to complete a stack or get a run back on the Rams side. So let's talk about the Rams real quick. Let's talk about their wide receivers. So obviously, look, we know about Cooper Kupp. We know even if he has a bad year, he's probably going to get 100 receptions, 1,200 yards, 10, 12 touchdowns on a bad year. He's going to be a good play. And if you're overlooking him just because the Rams are going to have another down year, you're probably wrong for doing that. Van Jefferson, his ADP has risen. I'm not exactly sure why. Like, that much, like from day one to now, it's like, I think it's 30 or 40 picks, something crazy. I'm not really sure why that's happening, but he's clearly the number 2. To me, Van Jefferson is a solid deep threat dude. We've seen him be utilized on these deep routes and make big plays. But to me, he's not really like as reliable, and he was hurt a lot last year, which is kind of scary. So that goes to now Tutu Atwell, Ben Skoranek, Puka Nacua, and Demarcus Robinson. Right now, it feels like it's probably a Tutu Atwell in this spot. But look, Puka is like a new version of Bobby Trees. like Robert Woods 2.0, based on what people are comping him to. He's been utilized in the run game in his career. He made a couple good catches today, or yesterday, depending on when you're watching this. So Puka to me is a guy that has high upside. He could absolutely end up taking the number 2 or number 3 spot, like absolutely. But as of right now, this early in training camp, it's kind of I'm kind of taking both of these guys, Tutu or Puka, and kind of rotating. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so you say Bobby Trees. So Puka 6'1", 205. Debo Samuel 6 foot 215. I think Sean McVay's just had his ass beat by his buddy so much that he just kind of got somebody similar, right? Like I think Tutu Atwell, Ben Skronik, even D-Rob. D-Rob was on there for a little bit last year, wasn't he? Yeah, it doesn't matter. That dude's washed. But Tutu and Ben, I think they had their chance to show that they were a number 2, even a number 3 wide receiver last year with the question marks. I mean, Cooper Kupp, he was fine, but Van Jefferson, right? He was inconsistent all year. So like Tutu didn't show up, Ben didn't show up. You're going to give it to the rookie. I think that Puka is going to get a lot of run. I like Puka. I think he's going to end up with the wide receiver number 3 spot. And these other guys are going to end up dust. But they're free. Again, they're free. So like if you are doing 150 entries or even 50 entries into the Millie, go ahead and get a couple with Tutu. Get a couple with Puka if you want to spread yourself out a little bit. I don't think you need to go get Ben Skronik. No. Or really get any deeper than that. It's Cooper Kupp, and I don't even like Van Jefferson for that. For where he is in ADP. There's just other guys I'm interested in, and to be completely honest with you, by the time I get to Van Jefferson, I've got 7 receivers. So I don't need to risk a pick on Van. I can get a better running back like Kendrick Miller or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Van's going around 161. You're right. At that point, I've probably got 7 wide receivers, maybe 8 if I'm going absolutely nuts. And usually the only time I get to Van Jefferson is when he just falls to me, like falls past ADP, and I'm like, man, he's right here. I rarely get him as a one-off, though. Are you finding yourself falling in that position? Like, I only get him when I'm looking to complete stacks. Is that kind of what you're doing?
Van Jefferson, I don't even think I have any. I don't give a shit about Van Jefferson.
Yeah, I feel you, man. So Zach Evans here. I got a decent amount of Zach Evans. I mean, look, he's free. He's going 227 ADP. You can get him in the 19th. Sometimes he doesn't even get drafted. Get him in the 19th, get him in the 20th. I have like way too much of him, which is kind of scary because I'm like, yeah, this dude is like backing up an injury-prone dude. This is a bad team. Maybe they're going to utilize him a lot on third down. I think, the reason maybe why is because people got scared away with the Sony Michel stuff. But now he's gone. So I'm very interested in Zach Evans. Anything else to talk about here before we get into our kind of lineups here?
Yeah, I like Zach Evans. Karen Williams is another one that's just really interesting. In these 20th round picks, like I don't think you're terrible taking a guy like that. If Cam Akers does get shipped off again, there is a potential that Karen and Zach Evans could fight for that one spot. It's probably going to be Zach Evans, but again, if you're playing the Millie, there are literally a million entries. You're fine in your 20th pick getting weird.
Yeah, you should get weird, especially with your stacks, because if that one, Justin Watson with your Mahomes and Justin Watson gets the touchdown and the 60-yard reception, you're going into that week 17, you're going to need one of those things to happen. And I feel like if you put one of those flyers with your stacks, that you're going to have a better result. Plus, you're going to also help your odds of winning more if you're stacking more. All right, so let's look at your lineup here. This is one of the ones you sent me. This is you didn't get Kupp here, but you ended up with Waller. You got a giant stack here. Daniel Jones, Waller, and then you had a run back. Who'd you get run back wise? Puka. Yeah, you did. Tell me about this lineup here. Do you remember it? You remember drafting it?
This one was what, June or July? I guess obviously June or July. Goddamn. Look, so right out the gate, I think I was a little different going Amon-Ra, St. Brown, and Tony Pollard. I wanted a little bit of that Detroit Dallas game. really, really love that game. It's going to be inside a dome. I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
And this draft did go a little bit weird, right? I didn't have many wide receivers by the time I ended up with my QB2, and that's kind of a different strategy than I normally take, right? I had Daniel Jones in the ninth. I didn't have 5 wide receivers by round 10, so this represents literally like 15% of my drafts. 85% of my drafts, I have a shitload of wide receivers by now.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I was a little bit more comfortable drafting 10 wide receivers, and taking guys like Jalen Hyatt and then Puka Nakua to kind of wrap it up. And then, I am going to plug a couple just reaches here. I like John Mechie and Michael Wilson too. Like, I got some pretty decent depth, despite kind of how my opening rounds went.
Yeah.
This is just a different draft for me. I usually don't take running backs like this. So, I don't know. It's kind of surprising to see this like 3-4 weeks later. You know what I mean?
Well, it's healthy to get some exposure to these types of builds, especially if you're doing quite a few lineups. All right, so this is your other one. Now you got Cooper Kupp at pick 4, and you got Darren Waller, and then you ended up getting Matt Stafford a little bit later. Actually, who did you get? You got Daniel Jones and Matt Stafford. Look at you. So we talked about this in the last show. What are your thoughts? I tend to stray away from doing that. Like I said in the last show, like break glass in case of emergency situation, where I'm like at the end, I'm like, shit, I need a third quarterback. Screw it. I'm gonna get Ritter with with Fields. I try not to do it. But what were your thoughts here? You're playing for a regular season and then hoping to get a shootout week 17 and have 2 quarterbacks that can score, right?
Yeah. And look, sometimes like I was saying on the other show, sometimes I think it's a little bit much to overdo it, right? Like, also think about your season long lineup. You can't just build for week 17. Matthew Stafford could easily get injured again, or maybe even get traded. Who knows what's going to happen with him at this point? He's old. He got his ring. So having 2 kind of solid quarterbacks, it gives me a little bit of flexibility. And then, I went crazy at the end there. I took Mike White just in case Tua ends up with another concussion. I think he'll ball in that offense in Miami. But no, again, this is another draft that is a little bit different for me. Again, I have 3 running backs, and I didn't end up with 5 wide receivers. But I think that's something that I need to be aware of a little bit more when I'm drafting with Cooper Kupp, right? Because you have Cooper Kupp, you just assume you're getting 25 points per game or whatever it is, because he's insane. So, your offense builds out a little bit differently. Maybe I need to be a little bit more aggressive on the wide receiver side, even when I have a little bit of Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Let's look at one lineup that I did. Let's see. I drafted this on July 24th. This is in the $44 150 max, 1 million total prize pool. So I got Cooper Kupp. Funny enough, I got Jonathan Taylor at 21. We'll see where that goes. Got T. Higgins, and then I turned back around, got myself some Joe Burrow. He fell about 7-8 picks, which was nice. So this kind of goes to show, like, you don't have to just say I got to take one of the 2 guys with my Cooper Kupp. Like, just wherever it falls to you, like you can do anything. Especially with, like, if Joe Burrow falls to me and I already have T. Higgins, hell yeah, I'm taking him. I got Darren Waller, then I got Daniel Jones. I had to reach, like, as you could see, I had to reach about 7 spots to get him. That's just what you're gonna have to do, unless. Unless I don't know. I have no problem doing that. Who else did I get? I got Hodgins. Who else? That's pretty much it. So what did I get? I got a 2. I got basically a 3 stack with 1 run back. What jumps out to you here? Anything interesting here? I did get a crazy indie stack here with the run back, but who did I get for the run back for my Cincy? I got Sky Moore and CEH. Yeah, interesting. What do you think about this lineup? This is a 3-5-8-4.
I think this is a good example of why you shouldn't have been reaching in the beginning for Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Joe Burrow, right? Joe Burrow all of a sudden has fluke injury. He's probably going to be fine. Excuse me. It's the first week of training camp, second day. Like, I'm taking out my star quarterback. I'm going to pay him billions of dollars to. Like, I know who he is.
Yeah.
You waiting to take him, and instead of reaching, you're probably now you're going to have rarer builds that's got Cooper Cup, T Higgins, and Joe Burrow, right? Like, that's not something that you are going to get.
Yeah.
You're not going to get those additional. You're not going to get that additional stud in the third round when you were reaching for Joe Burrow in the third round. So I think it's kind of a testament to that, and just kind of being conservative on your drafting style.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's move on. Final thoughts. So, look, the Rams are probably not going to be great this year. Like, most of the volume is going to go to Cooper Cup. Can we see Cam Akers have one full solid year where he is like a top maybe 15 running back in the league and he actually stays healthy? I don't know. We're going to find out. If this is his year to prove it, and that's probably why they're going to just let him run out there and get a shitload of snaps, because they want to see, do we like this guy? Can we hold on to him? When it comes to the Giants, they had a good year last year, man. They got a solid coaching staff. Seems like their GM knows what the hell he's doing. This is a playoff team, playoff atmosphere. The Giants, especially being in the NFC, I think it's like NFC Championship or bust for them, right? I mean, especially with Saquon back, I think as far as their expectations, they should be getting to the NFC Championship. Where do you think that the Giants are falling, and is their offense going to be solid again this year?
Yeah, look, if they can figure out their wide receiver stuff, I think they are going to be solid. They're going to need a little bit more health. Isaiah Hodgins, by the way, is 6'4", like 220. I didn't know that. So, like, he's their one size guy outside of Darren Waller. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, man, I think they can get there. We're going to need to see a big step from Daniel Jones. He's going to really have to take control of that offense. He's got the weapons and the tools to do it. NFC's weak, man. They easily can make a run in the playoffs if they can put some pieces together.
Absolutely. Throw us a like, guys. Subscribe. Like we said in the beginning, we are going to do all 32 teams. We're going to do 16 shows. We'll try to get you 3 shows a week, maybe 4 as we get closer. Comment down below who you want to see next. We haven't decided yet. Comment down below who you see next. Let us know if you agree with what we're saying, and we will see you guys later.